So welcome back, friends. So we talked about the chloroplast, shapes of the chloroplast, discovery of the chloroplast, and a little bit introduction related to the chloroplast. Now this is the part B of the chloroplast, and in this part B we are going to talk about structure of the chloroplast in a detail. So let me write structure of chloroplast. Now chloroplast structure, if we talked about the structure of the chloroplast, so usually chloroplast contain a double membrane structure. Okay, so just like mitochondria, chloroplast have also a double membrane. One we call that outer membrane and the other we call that inner membrane. So now if we talked about the plant cell chloroplast, as I told you that it is look like in a oval like shape. So in this, now this is the so the chloroplast in plant cell, it is in oval like shape. Now this is the outer membrane. Okay, so they have double membrane. One is the outer and the second is the inner membrane. So this is the inner membrane. So this is what? This is the outer membrane. Outer membrane. So the first thing, the outer membrane is actually, we can say it is a permeable. Okay, so it is what? It is a permeable. So the first thing is that it is a permeable. The second thing is that it contains less proteins. The inner membrane. So if we talked about the inner membrane, this is the inner membrane. So the inner membrane of the chloroplast is actually selectively permeable. So it is what? It is the selectively permeable. Selectively permeable. Now the second thing is about they contain more proteins. They contain more proteins than outer membrane. Okay, so it contains more proteins. And they can select those substances which are actually important for the chloroplast. So this is about the membrane structures. Now second we have the inner membrane are actually invaginate and they make another structure which we called thylakoid. Okay, so how it will be look like? It will be look like in this form. So let me draw. So they will be means that this inner membrane is a little bit, we can say that it is a little bit invaginate. So it contains a stake-like structure. Now this is a stake-like structure which is present one above the other, and we call that thylakoid. Okay, what we call that? We call that thylakoid. Okay. So if we see this group of the thylakoid is actually called what? This group of the thylakoid is called Grana. What we call that? We call that Grana. Plural, this is the plural form, and the singular we call it granium. Now this is what? This is the thylakoid membrane. The thylakoid membrane, so this is the thylakoid. So they have means in chloroplast there are more thylakoid. Okay, so let me draw another one thylakoid membrane here. So keep one thing in your mind, that thylakoid will also present with the inner membrane. Okay, so they will be present with the inner membrane. So this is another one. Each thylakoid membrane are present, each thylakoid membrane, or we can say each thylakoid are present with the inner membrane, or sometimes they will be present with each other as well. Or we can also say there will be another thylakoid membrane are also present and they will be arranged with each other. Okay, so this is another thylakoid. This space is actually called stroma lumen. Okay, so behind that they also contain a fluid or aqueous solution or a fluid solutions as I am drawing. This portion of the chloroplast are, we call it stroma. stroma. Okay, so the dark reaction, if we talked about the dark reaction, inshallah we'll discuss about dark and light reaction. Okay, so the dark reaction usually present in the stroma portion, so they are actually responsible for the dark reaction. They also contain a special kinds of contain enzymes. For example, we have a Robisco. Okay, so let me write Robisco means ribulase bisulfate carboxylase, just like in this, just like that enzymes. Okay, so they have an enzyme, we call it Robisco, means ribulase bisulfate carboxylase. Now this enzyme are actually responsible for the dark reaction. Okay, so that's why dark reaction are present in the stroma. Now this thylokoid membrane are actually used for the means light reaction, LIGHT, light reaction. Okay, this thylokoid portion is actually responsible for the site of light reaction. Now this stroma portion also contain a divalent cations. Okay, for example, magnesiums, we can say ferrous, divalent ions. Now there is a space, as you are watching, between the inner and outer membrane. So the space are usually called what? We call it inner membrane space. Inner membrane space. Now this membrane, as you are watching, means where the thylakoid are present, where the thylakoid are connected, means this one membrane where the thylakoid are actually present with each other. We call that stroma lemallA. So we call that what? We call that stroma lemallA. Now moreover, this thylakoid membrane, if we talked about the thylakoid, so this thylakoid will contain a green pigments, as I am drawing. So they contain a green pigments which is responsible for the photosynthesis, and we also says that this green portion or this green pigments are also responsible for the light reaction as well. Now these green pigments are called what? These green pigments are called the chlorophyll. Moreover, they also contain their own DNA portion. So they contain their own DNA which is in circular form. So they contain a DNA which is in a circular form. So this will be the DNA of chloroplast. And they also contain ribosomes as well, which is 70S. Okay, so they also contain ribosomes which are actually responsible for the protein synthesis. So they form the protein for the chloroplast as well. And these ribosomes are usually called it plastidoribosome. And it is usually 70S. Now, moreover, if we talked about this thylakoid, so let's explain a little bit this thylakoid membrane, this thylakoid. Okay, so if we take this one portion of the thylakoid, let's suppose this one portion of the thylakoid, and if we assume it, so let's suppose this is the first membrane, or if we see, let's suppose this is the first thylakoid membrane. Okay, so this is the first thylakoid, and this will be the second one. So let me draw another thylakoid. Collectively we call that Grana. Okay, so now the portion, as you are watching the space here, this space is actually called what? This space is actually called lumen. This space is called what? Lumen. Now if you see this, if you see this clearly, so it also contains two membrane. The one is inner and the other is outer. So means this thylakoid also contains the two membrane. So this portion of the membrane are actually connected with the stroma. Okay, as you are seeing, this inner membrane is connected. This outer membrane is actually connected with the stroma. Now this inner membrane will be connected with the stroma, and as you are watching this, this is the outer, means outer will be connected with the stroma, and this inner portion will be connected with each other. Okay, so this is the inner portion. The inner portion membrane, or we can say the inner part of this thylakoid will be connected with each other. So here in this lumen portion, they contain what? They contain a green pigment which we called it chlorophyll. Now not only they contain the chlorophyll, they contain chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, we can say a carotenoid, and we can also say xanthophyll as well. So all these molecules, xanthophyll, chlorophylls molecules, chlorophyll A, B, C, and we can say carotenoids, means they all these molecules are connected to each other, and we call that quantasomes. So what we called it? We called it quantasomes. And each quantasome has actually 230 pigments. How many pigments? They contain 230 pigments. Now the portion or the part where this part means the thylakoid, so as I told you that thylakoid contain two portion or two parts, the first part and the second part. The first part, which is connected with the stroma, we called it appresed part. Okay, what we called it? We called it appresed part. And the thylakoid part and the another part which is actually connected with each other, which is connected with each other, means this one part. This part is actually called this one part is called non-appressed part. Okay, so this is called non-appressed part, and the other portion or the other part of the thylakoid membrane is actually connected with each other, means this one portion we call that what? We call that appressed part. Appressed part. Now they have two photosystem. The first photosystem is usually occur at the non-appressed part. So this is the non-appressed part. So here the photosystem 1 present, and the other photosystem 2 is present in the appressed part. So this is the photosystem 2. Now this photosystem 1, if we talked about this photosystem 1, so this photosystem 1 absorb light which having the wavelength 700. Okay, and this photosystem 2 absorb the light when the light wavelength is 680. So this is how the photosystem working, or this is how the photosystem functions. Now this matrix part, or we can say this stroma part, this matrix part, or sometimes we also call it stroma, this contain ribosomes, as I write here. This contain the DNA, and it also contain the lipid droplet as well, and starch granules. So in the thylakoid membrane means so in the thylakoid membranes, here the photosynthesis process occurs. So not only the photosynthesis process occur, here the electron transport chain, and we can say the tricarboxylic acid cycles are also occur in this chloroplast as well. And due to this process, it can produce what? It can produce energy in the form of ATP and in the form of NADPH2. Okay, if we talked about that, how actually it can perform the process of photosynthesis, and if we talked about how can it perform the process of electron transport chain, or if we talked about that how it can perform the process of tricarboxylic acid. So the reason behind that, actually it can absorb carbon dioxide, first thing. The second thing, it can absorb the water, and moreover it can absorb the sunlight. So with these three things, they perform the process of tricarboxylic acid, electron transport chain, and photosynthesis process as well. And with the help of these three processes, they will release oxygen molecule, they will also release oxygen to us, and they will also release ATP, carbohydrates, and moreover they will release NADPH. Okay, so all these material or all these sources are needed for our surviving, and as well as for their own plant surviving as well. So okay friend, so this is about the structure of the chloroplast. So I hope you understand about the structure of the chloroplast. If still you have any kind of questions related with the chloroplast, means if still you have any questions with these two videos lecture regarding with the chloroplast, so write it into a comment. Inshallah, I will give you answer as soon as possible. If you like the video, so please must like the video, hit the subscribe button, and also press the bell icon to get more updates of the cell biology lectures. Thank you so much. Take care.